Welcome, friends. It's Ray. Thank you so much for joining me today. In today's video, we make cards with the January 2022 Simon Says Stamps Warmest Wishes card kit. Let's take a look at what's inside of the kit. First off, we got some adhesive gems from Hampton Arts in like a fuchsia pink color. Next, we get an exclusive stencil from Simon Says Stamps, the scattered snowflakes 6x6 stencil. Then we get 12 sheets of La La Land Starry Nights 6x6 double-sided papers, and these are beautiful, beautiful, and can be used for winter birthdays, anniversaries, after Christmas thank you cards. Some crafters did make Christmas cards, but could also make New Year's cards. These papers are really pretty. Love them. The kit includes 2 A2 envelopes, one in dull pink and one in white, and a 3D embossing folder, faceted snowflakes. Oh, that's really pretty. The kit also has a 6x8 clear stamp set, Warmest Wishes, with snow people. There are 4 of them, and then a gift set, and that can be used for more than Christmas, of course, for birthdays, anniversaries, like that. Then there are trees that can be used throughout the winter in various scenes, and lots of snowflakes and nice sentiments. As in all the kits, there is a nice color sheet with some examples of cards that you can make using the kit. And if you're not familiar, there is an online gallery of cards, many more cards. So if you're making cards, you can post them to the gallery or get inspiration from the gallery. The kit also includes 3 sheets of cardstock in the Simon Soft Navy 100-pound, dull pink, and lavender. And then 1 sheet of 110-pound Nina Solar White cardstock. Next is this beautiful seafoam glitz glitter gel from Simon. It is a full-size jar, and it is beautiful. Has a lot of texture, beautiful color. I started out with maybe planning to make just a handful of cards and ended up making quite a few cards with this kit. So let's get started. So for card number 1, I am spraying the back of my stencil with some pixie spray in my spray box. And I'm going to let that set for just a minute or so, bringing in a scrap piece of paper and my card, 65-pound cardstock, and have affixed that stencil to my card panel, mixing up my glitz glitter gel, and am applying that directly using my palette knife. And I am going to make sure that I get good coverage, and I am planning to make a slimline card when I start out, but ended up trimming this down quite a bit. In certain areas, I scraped off a little bit too much of my glitz glitter gel. So I opted to trim that down to make a smaller sized card. It's important to clean your stencil right away. So I'm going to take this to the sink. While my panel is drying, I am going to go ahead and stamp some of the images from the kit. So I'm prepping my um, cardstock, and I placed all of the snow people and some of the trees and the stack of gifts into my Misty, and using VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I did not get a good impression the first time, so I stopped to re-ink my ink pad. And I've had this for years, and this is the first time I'm needing to re-ink it. So um, then I get a much better impression. So right about here, I realized that my volume um, or the audio volume is a little low on this recording. Sorry about that. I do have a new microphone coming. Can't wait to get it. I did prep my panel with anti-static powder before stamping, and so now I am using some clear embossing powder and will heat set these images. I stamped two panels of the same images and then cut those out with my scan and cut. I use a Thanks die with a shadow, and I cut that out of black cardstock, 110-pound black cardstock. Cut that 3 times, and now am using my Ranger liquid adhesive to affix those together. And I can't remember, but I know I got this die in another kit. Can't remember if it was a Simon kit or a Hero Arts kit. So my panel is now dry, and initially I'm trimming this down to 3.5 by 8.5, thinking I'm going to make a slimline card, but had a couple of inconsistent areas where I didn't add as much gel. So I decide to make a mini slimline. So I trimmed this down to 3 by 6. I die cut some hills or snowbanks using some dies from my stash, and am applying liquid adhesive to affix these to my card front. I colored my images off camera using my Ohuhu alcohol markers. I placed an acrylic block on this to set it, and then am bringing in my snow person and my pine tree and affixing those with liquid glue. And I kind of get my pine tree a little crooked there, but I am going to roll with it because I didn't notice it until it was too late. It was already set. And so because the gel texture is thick, I did have to place an acrylic block on top to make sure that that tree adhered. I add a second snowbank to my card, and then I bring in a third snowbank, and I'm affixing all of these with tacky glue, and will trim down this panel once I'm done so that the end panel is 3 by 6. And then towards the bottom where the snowbanks are, I am using a scrap piece of paper to build that up, so, or level it out so that it is the same level as the top of the card. So I go ahead and affix this to my card base, which is 3¼ by 6¼ using a combination of double-sided tape and tacky glue. I've affixed my sentiment to the bottom of my card panel, and now I'm bringing in some of the gems from the kit, and we'll apply a little liquid glue beneath them just to make sure that they are secure. These gems are really pretty and add a nice finishing touch to this card. I am varying the sizes, putting some up top, two up top of the panel, and then one down um, in the bottom on the second snowbank. I will link to my DIY video tutorial on making your own matching mini slimline card envelopes. It's very easy. So I really needed to redeem myself using this glitz gel. So this card is a slimline card, and I am affixing my stencil to my card panel. I have used a post-it note tape to cover the bottom of, so that I don't go over into the area that I am not stenciling. So everything's secure, and I have brought in some Distress Re-Inker and Blueprint Sketch because I want to darken this glitter gel. So that's what I've done here. I've added 2 drops to my glitter gel and mixed that all together on my palette, and am liberally spreading this glitter gel on my panel, and I'm not going to scrape too much off. So here I am peeling this off for the reveal, and let that dry off camera. And here I am trimming it down to 3½ by 8¼ I did not leave in the coloring, but wanted to show you that I'm touching up areas where I bled my color, touching that up with my white gel pen. I die cut a snowbank, and I'm applying it with liquid adhesive. So here, I put liquid adhesive on my snow person, and then decided that I needed a little snow area to ground it. So I took the snow stamp from or it's more of a line, a wiggly line stamp from the set, and ink that up in VersaFine and mask it off with some post-it note tape so that I only stamped a portion of it. So this grounds my snow person. Had I been thinking, I'd have used maybe a light blue just to give it a touch of color versus black. So something to think about if you're using that stamp from the kit on white, solid white. I am bringing in some of the snowflakes from stamps from the kit and stamping those. Again, I wished I had thought to stamp those in maybe a light blue. I didn't think about it until now when I'm trying to do the voiceover. At any rate, I am placing this in my the card in my MISTI and using a visible image happy birthday sentiment stamp on the inside because I do need to get this card in the mail. I'm going to place some liquid glue on the center of each snowflake and then add one of the gems from the kit. Love these, really pink and pretty. And then I will, when mailing this, I will place just a 3.5 by 8.5 blank white cardstock piece on top to try to secure these gems for mailing. Card number 3 is also a slimline card. I started by spritzing my 120-pound cardstock with a little water and embossing using the 3D embossing folder from the kit. I've die cut my Hugs sentiment from 65-pound cardstock in light blue and am using liquid glue to affix the 3 together. I also die cut the shadow for the sentiment just from some vellum. I am using my Ranger Multimedia Matte glue with a precision tip on it so that I can affix these pieces without a lot of bulk to the glue, because this adhesive is very light, but it does hold very well. So I usually reserve it for small, intricate pieces. So here I'm adding my Hugs sentiment to the vellum shadow. I'm taking my bone folder and pressing a portion of the embossed panel down because I know that I'm going to fix my large pattern paper to the top, and I want the embossed area that it touches to be as smooth as possible. So I have affixed that with liquid glue, and that pattern paper measures 3.5 by 4.5, and affix that directly to my white embossed panel. I've also cut a piece of the same pattern paper and turned it over to 3.5 by 1.5, and I am matting it on light blue cardstock, and we'll affix that to the top of my panel. I affixed my card panel to a blue matte 3.5 by 8.25. Because of the texture on the back of the embossing panel, I am going to add some extra strips of double-sided tape across the middle so that this panel adheres really well to my card base. And now I'm taking my sentiment and just applying that thin layer of glue right behind the sentiment itself on the vellum. I placed an acrylic block on top, and I don't always stamp the insides of my cards on camera, but I am placing this one into my MISTI and have a particular sentiment from the kit that I want to stamp inside. So we'll go ahead and stamp that using But first I'm lining up my stamp using my acetate grid sheet so that it is, in the has the proper placement. I bring in a second stamp sentiment from the kit and add that right underneath. And I'm using my VersaFine Onyx Black ink to stamp that a couple of times along with my dry eraser. And now that that's stamped, I'm going to go ahead and affix my card front to my card base. To embellish this card, I'm bringing in my Nuvo crystal glitter drops in pale gold and just placing 3 drops in a few of the snowflakes on the card front. Love how this card turned out. I think this is my favorite pattern paper in the kit, and I have cut it in half, so 3 by 6, and am taping from the back the 2 pieces together. Then I'm going to trim it down to 7.5 inches long. Using the soft navy cardstock from the kit, I cut a mat that measured 3.5 by 8.25. I also cut a white mat that measures 3.125 by 7.125. And I am affixing that panel, or my pattern paper panel, to the white mat using liquid glue. I affix this panel then to my blue mat. I trim off a little excess with my trimmer. I cut a 3/4 inch strip of another piece of pattern paper, and I will use that to cover the seam that I left on my initial pattern paper panel. I have purchased some Simon Says Stamp sentiment strips. This one's called Slimline Love, and I am trimming down to get the Happy Valentine's Day one. I've also picked out a second sentiment strip, I Love You to the Moon and Back, and I'm trimming that down. I'm pulling in some gray zebra glitter cardstock or silver, and have cut a circle, an oval from some of the pattern paper in the kit, and fixing those together with liquid glue. I did cut some small hearts out of that zebra silver print cardstock, and we'll use those on this card. So here I am adding liquid glue and fixing the oval off center, off the right side of the card panel, and we'll trim that down with my scissors. I ended up trimming that right side down a little bit more so that the blue mat shows, and you'll see that in the final card. Here I am matting my sentiment strips on navy cardstock. After I get them all affixed with liquid glue, I will trim them down so that I have about 1/8 of an inch border all around each sentiment strip or sentiment piece. I am affixing my sentiment pieces to my card front, and am bringing in just a small portion of Doris foam square to put on the left side where the V is going to um, be placed off of the oval a little. Before placing the foam or adding it to the sentiment piece, I did cut it in half so that it was going to be flatter on the card. I used liquid glue to affix my second sentiment strip, and then I am now trying to figure out placement for my silver glitter hearts, and am going to use some liquid adhesive to affix those to the panel. I brought in some liquid mercury Nouveau crystal drops and placed 3 of them on the focal panel with the sentiments or sentiment pieces. For card number 5, it is a slimline card, and I am using Freshly Made Sketches number 126. This is one of my favorites. I am taping 2 pieces of pattern paper from the kit together, and the top one measures 3 by 6, the bottom 2 3/4 by 3 5/8. And I will cut this piece down to 3 by 7 1/2. I've cut a gold pattern paper piece down to 3 1/4 by 6 and am now affixing more of that same pattern paper together so that I end up with a 3 1/4 by 7 1/2 inch piece for my front. I am trimming down my sentiment strip, and this one comes from the Slimline Sentiments also. And here I am placing my top pattern paper onto the bottom and trying to figure out placement at which angle to secure and cut my top piece down. I am using liquid adhesive to secure my top pattern piece down, and before I trim it down, I'm going to use my scissors, turn it over, use my scissors to trim off that bottom edge, and then I'm going to place that in my paper trimmer and trim down the side. Here I am using liquid adhesive to add a strip of cardstock scrap to that right side of the panel there. I'm going to trim up my entire panel so that it measures 3 1/2 by 8 1/4. To add more contrast, I had a leftover piece of cardstock that I adhered to the front of the panel. I am using liquid adhesive to mat my sentiment pieces to navy cardstock. I'm leaving space between the happy anniversary sentiment piece and the I fall more in love with you every day. Those last 2 are going to be on the same mat, so the spacing between the 2 is not as great. I'm trimming those so that I have about 1/8 of an inch border around each piece. My scalloped navy circle measures 2 3/4, and then I'm placing a white circle stitch circle on top of that with liquid adhesive, and then a smaller gold scalloped circle using that same pattern paper from the front panel. And here I'm trying to figure out placement of my sentiment strips. And then once I get all of that figured out, I'm going to go ahead and use liquid adhesive to affix everything. Can I change my mind in the middle of a video? I think this is my favorite card, and I like this pattern paper or this combination of pattern papers. So I'm matting my front panel to my blue, my navy card mat, and I love the way this is shaping up. Love this card. Let me know in the comments which card you like best. I don't have any happy anniversary cards in my stash of cards, so this is great. I will actually have to make more of these. I don't have this pattern paper, but I will use others from my stash to make more anniversary cards. Here I'm placing the gold glitter stars that I cut out, placing those on the card front, and those are my embellishments. I wanted to keep this simple because I'm thinking this one's going to go to my husband. So for card number 6, I am cutting my 6x6 pattern paper in half and turning it over, affixing tape to the back to extend my panel so that I can make a slimline card. And I'm going to cut this panel to 3 by 7.5. I am using more sentiment strips by Simon, the thank you sentiment strips in color, and I looked on their website and it appears that they may have sold out or discontinued these. I'm not 100% sure, but I could not find it. And I know in one of the recent kits we got a sheet of white thank you, these same sentiments in white. So that's what I'm using here, trimming that sentiment strip down. I am fishtailing the strip on the left side of the sentiment. I'm applying double-sided tape, quarter inch tape, on top of my seam in the pattern paper. And then I am going to release that tape and use a scrap piece of wild lilac foil paper by Gina K, and then I'm going to fold those edges over. I just burnish that with my bone folder. I have my mini mink on my desk warming up, and am cutting some a small scrap of that foil wild lilac, and have, oh, I'm sorry, that's off camera, but I did place it in my parchment paper and then place that inside of my transfer folder, and I'm running that through my mink to foil this sentiment strip. I am using some Deco foil adhesive, foam adhesive by iCraft and Thermal Web, and it's really just double-sided foam, and I know any double-sided foam should work the same way. So I have die cut 3 stars out of this foam adhesive. I'm using my craft tool to punch or push my stars, my die cuts out of the dies, and then once I get that done, I will remove the release paper from one side use a scrap piece of my wild lilac and my bone folder to burnish it down, and then just gently pull it off, and you have a foam sticker that is decorated with foil. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I can get a little unconventional at times. But here I'm just taking my double-sided tape, 1/8 of an inch, and I am just pressing it down and tearing it in all different directions and different piece sizes on my oval. I'm using the Hero Arts Infinity ovals here, or used it to cut this white piece. I take my Distress Oxide Spun Sugar and just go around the edges, direct from ink pad to cardstock, and just to give it a little color. And then I take my craft tool and pick off all of the release paper. Next, I take a scrap of wild lilac. I typically, once I foil, I don't throw it away. I can usually use more of it, and that's exactly what I'm doing here, just using scraps of that wild lilac that I've used on previous projects. And I'm just touching that down to each of those adhesive strips to add some fun sparkle, shine, and splatter on this oval. The sentiment strips are printed on Simon 100-pound cardstock, and so the purple or lilac that I chose to use, lavender that I chose to use, actually matches the lavender cardstock that came in the kit. So I cut another oval from that lavender cardstock and used it to mat my white oval, and then I will also use it to mat my focal panel. I use liquid adhesive to place my oval, matted oval, onto my focal panel, and I'm placing it right above my wild lilac foil. Once that sets a bit, I will turn that piece over and just trim off the edge of that oval with my scissors. I use liquid adhesive to place my sentiment strip on my oval, and I use double-sided tape to place my card base or my card front onto my lavender mat, which leaves about 1/8 of an inch border. Now I'm going to go ahead and bring in my stars that I foiled a little while ago and place those on my panel. Oh, I love the way this card is turning out. My lavender mat measures 3 1/8 by I bring in my Nuvo glitter crystal drops in Purple Rain to add more sparkle shine to this card. Lovely. So for my next set of 4 cards, I am going to use the Simon Says Stamps Thank You sentiment strips again. I'm using cutting the one in white here, and I'm going to use the Thank You sentiment strip. I have cut my navy cardstock down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 and brought in my MFT, My Favorite Things Wonky stitched frame dies, and using the largest one, cut out my pattern paper and am affixing that to my mat using double-sided tape I have used another smaller of these Wonky frames to cut out two pieces of contrasting pattern paper, as well as a piece of navy paper cardstock. And I'm going to affix these to my front panel with liquid glue. Because I didn't have to do any stamping, these cards came together so quickly. And I made 4 of this design. I will show all of the finished cards in just a bit, just making this one card number 7 on screen. But let me know in the comments which of these 4 cards you liked best. This blue one, navy, is my favorite because it is gender neutral, and you know, if you can use it for men, that makes it all the better because it's easier to make the frilly feminine cards versus masculine cards. Although this one's not totally masculine, it can be definitely be used for a male. And here I'm trimming off the side of my sentiment strip after affixing it to my card panel, and I'm bringing in some of the moons and the stars from Prima Marketing embellishments, and I don't know if these are still stocked, but if I can find a source for them, I will list them in the description bar below. But these are really pretty. They are very sparkly and almost iridescent. Really pretty shine. I placed 1 moon and 6 stars across my panel. When placing them, I tried to make sure they didn't all line up, you know, but that they looked more scattered and organic. Using a combination of double-sided tape and liquid adhesive to affix my panel to my card base, and I put liquid adhesive right around the cutout so that that area is definitely affixed to the card base, and there won't be any puckers between the panel and the card base. So here I'm using the black and white pattern paper from the kit, and am lining up my Wonky frames so that I cut out um, an inside frame with these dies. And I'm taking a piece of fun foam here and cutting it down so that it's a little smaller than my frame. I am taking a pencil and just lightly marking where I want to cut my opening in my fun foam, and then I will use that same small die that I used for the inside to cut out my fun foam. Here I am placing double-sided tape around my pattern paper inside frame, doing the same on a piece of acetate that I've cut out that is cut larger than that frame opening. I'm releasing that release tape on my frame and then on the acetate, and then we'll go ahead and place the acetate over the frame. So I've got double adhesive there for my shaker window. So my fun foam has adhesive on one side, and I've released the release paper, And I have used some doubled over tape, just regular tape, to position my fun foam on top of my pattern paper and to hold it. Because I want to make sure I line it up perfectly in the front. And then, oops, I did not remove the release paper here. I'm removing a portion of it, sticking it down, and then pulling up that temporary side, removing my paper, my tape, and then we'll remove the rest of the release paper slowly and to fix that fun foam down to my card front or panel. I'm using my scissors to trim down just a sliver of that fun foam so that it doesn't go beyond my pattern paper. And then I'm using my anti-static powder bag on the acetate, inside acetate, so that when I put my sequins in, my shaker bits will shake more freely. I'm using those same Prima Marketing moon and stars, and then a little bit of Moxie chunky glitter, and then we'll place a piece of acetate over my panel to cover, and I'm placing double-sided tape on that acetate. I also place some liquid adhesive on that acetate so to make sure that I have no openings for my sequins and my glitter to slip through. Sorry, that is off camera there. Didn't realize that. Afterwards, I'm going to place my acrylic block on top of that, press it down really well because that I want to make sure that fun foam adheres to my adhesive. So once that's dry, I turn my panel over so that I can finish putting my card together. I place that cutout panel on the back side of my shaker and just use some regular tape to tape that down, hold it in place. I used contrasting pattern paper to cut out the smallest of the Wonky frames into different pattern papers, and we'll use liquid glue to affix those to the front of my panel. I am using another of the sentiments from the Simon Says Stamps thank you strips, sentiment strips, and I have placed some Deri's spun foam on the back and will affix that to the front of my card. I use my black mat, the grid line, to line that up, get that just right before I press it in and commit it forever. And then I turn that over and just use my scissors to trim down the sentiment on either side. And then I'm removing the release paper here. I have used 1/4-inch double-sided tape and a lot of it because I want to make sure this doesn't move. And then I'm going to place use a little liquid adhesive just in some of the areas that, again, just to secure this panel. And then I'm going to place this onto my card base. I am bringing in some sequins from Fun Stamper's Journey. I think that's the name of the company. I will definitely list those in the description bar below. They are from Spellbinders, and they are just really tiny. And I'm just spreading those out throughout the design. I'm using like 5 of those just to add some embellishment sparkle to this card. I love the way this shaker card turned out. At this point, I only have some scraps left over, no full pieces of pattern paper. So I'm getting ready to work on my scraps to Beauts cards. So 12, 13, and 14 are definitely scrap cards. I am just going to cut this where it makes sense, and just start making scraps. Um, if you're interested in the sizing or measurements for all of the cards, including these scrap cards, please go to my blog. I will list everything there and have more pictures, still pictures of the cards. Once I get these all trimmed to various size rectangles, I will mat them on cardstock, matching cardstock to about 1/8 of an inch, and then start putting my cards together. I do bring in scallop circles from Creative Expressions, and I use in two of the cards I use the 2 3/4 inch circle. I am going to use liquid adhesive and place my matted pieces directly on my card base, and I've used my Tim Holtz ruler to find the center of my cardstock, and placed my larger middle panel onto my card, and then using the ruler again to place my left panel or piece and then my right piece onto my card base. I am going to add foam squares to a portion of my circle and all of my rectangle. So I've used my pencil and my ruler to draw out or kind of map out where I want to put my fun foam or my foam tape. And so that's what I'm doing here. I bring in some gold glitter circles that are relatively flat from Elizabeth Crafts and use those to embellish cards 12 and 13. Cards 12 and 13, the layout is exactly the same, so I only showed one on camera. Now, card number 14, the layout is slightly different, and that is because of the scraps and the sizes that I had. So my largest pattern paper piece is slightly smaller than the one I had to use in cards 12 and 13. So I am just improvising here and have matted 5 pattern paper pieces. They're all pretty small. I brought in a smaller scallop circle and am just placing these onto a white panel that I cut out with the largest of the Wonky frames dies, and then I matted it onto navy cardstock. So I'm using liquid adhesive to affix these panels, and I am using the, let's see, I'm using for 12 and 13, I use the thanks. Simon says thanks. Simon says stamps, thanks, sentiment strips. And for this card number 14, I'm using the same sentiment strips, but in white, because I used blue on 12 and 13. So having fun with this, just using some scrap cardstock on the back to make certain that I level out each of my pieces. I trim off a sliver of that right edge. I bring in my Elizabeth Crafts gold glitter circles and use my adhesive eraser to remove some unwanted dried glue. And this card, and I bring in a sentiment, and this card is finished. Card number 15 is also an A2 thank you card. And I brought in some pink cardstock from my stash for my panel, and bringing in some of that pretty pink and starry pattern paper from the kit, and just using liquid glue to affix that. And then I will just trim off the bottom, even that up. I'm bringing in this blue and pink and hint of lilac pattern paper. I had just a little of this left over, and here I'm using cardstock scraps on the back so that I can level this out. I'm bringing in stars from the Prima Marketing Pack to finish off this card. And I am mounting it to an A2 card base. And this is card number 15. So let's take a look back at all of the cards I made in today's video. I hope you liked today's video and will give me a thumbs up. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. Until next time, good day, friends.